All right, guys. So let's go over the food web and trophic level section of the review. Now, for the first question, if there's 10,000 units of energy in the producer level, how much will make it to the secondary consumer? Great. So we have 10,000 units of energy. We want to see how much makes it to the secondary consumer. And we got to remember that in this case, we're going to apply the 10% rule. So remember, only 10% ever makes it to the next level, while the other 90% are lost as heat. So from the producer to the primary consumer, 10% of that 10,000 will make it. So let's divide 10,000 by 10, and we're going to get 1,000. Now, from the primary consumer to the secondary consumer, another 10% are going to make it. So we're going to divide 1,000 by 10, and we're going to get 100. So 100 units of energy make it to the secondary consumer. Now, let's go to the next question. In the previous question, how much energy would make it to the fifth level consumer? The fifth level consumer. Okay. We don't usually talk about fifth level consumers. I think the most we ever get to usually is tertiary or quaternary. But okay, the fifth level consumer. Is that enough energy to maintain life? Okay, so wait. We had 10,000, we divided by 10, and we got 1,000 at the primary. At the primary consumer, we got 1,000. Then we divide by 10 again, and at the secondary consumer, we got 100. Then we divide by 10 one more time. And at the tertiary consumer, that's the third level, we divided the 100 by 10, we got 10. And then we apply the 10% rule one more time. And at the quaternary consumer, the fourth level, we divided 10 by 10 and we got 1. So now at the fifth level consumer, we divide by 10 one more time. We divide 1 by 10 and we get 0.1 units of energy. We started at 10,000 and we end with 0.1. Is that enough energy to maintain life? No, it is not. No, it is not. That is too low of an amount of energy. That is a fraction of a percentage of energy. So we usually only get to about tertiary or quaternary because anything past that, and there's just not enough energy transferred. You don't get any more energy past the tertiary or quaternary level. It's not high enough to maintain life. So there's your answer for that one. Now, where does the energy that goes into the food web come from? So where does all that energy come from? It can't just appear. It's got to come from somewhere up, somewhere up. Let's think up into the sky. Oh, wait, our magical, fantastical sun god gives energy to the plants, and then the plants end up forming the basis of the food web. So all the energy that goes into the food web originates from the sun through sunlight. So let's go to the next problem. In this one, we actually have a food web, a very nice food web. Look at that. Look at all them animals right there. So I want you to categorize the following organisms from the food web based on their highest trophic level. So their highest trophic level. That means they can have multiple trophic levels, but we want to categorize them based on their highest. So we got grass, grasshopper, tree, rhino, deer, snake, cheetah, blackbird, and the lion. All right, let's go with the first one, grass. All right, so we can see right here in the bottom, we have the grass. And from what I can see right there, the grass is at the producer level. The grass is not consuming anybody. He is what is being consumed. He is at the producer level. And that's the highest trophic level for the grass. Now let's look at the grasshopper. Now the grasshopper eats the grass. So he's a primary consumer. And he doesn't have any other thing that he eats. So this is the highest level that the grasshopper can get to, primary consumer. Let's look at the tree right here. The tree is at the highest level already, and that is the producer level. So our grass and our tree are producers because that's the highest level that they're able to reach. They're not consuming anything else, so they can't be any form of consumer. Let's do the rhino now. So we can see that the rhino eats the tree and the grass, but nothing else. He does not eat any other organism. He is a herbivore. He's only eating the producers. That means he is a primary consumer. So far we have grass is producer, grasshopper is primary consumer, tree is producer, and the rhino is primary consumer. We only got a few more. Let's go to the deer. All right, so we can see that the deer is eating two different kinds of producers, but he does not eat any kind of organism. So right now, the highest level that the deer can be is a primary consumer as well. Let's go to the snake. All right, so snake is a little bit up. So it goes from grass to the rat, and the rat's a primary consumer, to the bobcat right here, who is a secondary consumer. And the snake eats it, and so that makes the snake a tertiary consumer. And we can see that the snake doesn't have any other path to get to this point. So the highest level that the snake can get to is tertiary consumer. Let's go to the cheetah. Now the cheetah has a couple different paths. So let's go to the path on the right first. It has the bush to the deer to the cheetah. So the bush is producer, the deer is going to be primary consumer. That'll make the cheetah a secondary consumer. But we don't know if that's the highest level for the cheetah yet. It's got another path. So we can also go from grass right here to grasshopper. Grasshopper's primary, all the way to the baboon. The baboon is secondary. And if the cheetah eats the baboon, that makes the cheetah a tertiary consumer. But wait, there's another path to get to the cheetah still. We can go from the grass to the rat. The rat's a primary. The bobcat is a secondary. The snake is a tertiary. The baboon would be a quaternary. And then the cheetah would be considered a fifth level consumer at this point. That would be the highest level that it can get to. And I know that I just mentioned that we usually don't get to fifth level, but check out what the cheetah is doing. He's not getting a lot of energy out of the baboon, but he is eating the deer, and that makes up for the difference. That makes up for the difference in the amount of energy that he's lacking from eating the baboon. So the highest level that we can categorize the cheetah right here is a fifth level consumer. And I just wanted to point out that that can exist if they're supplementing their diet with something else. If he only ate baboon, cheetahs would not exist. But he's eating something else, so that's able to supplement the diet in there. Let's go to the blackboard. So the blackbird's right here. So we have the grasshopper's primary. The blackbird is a secondary consumer, and there's no other path to get to it. So that means the blackbird is going to be our secondary consumer. Last up, lion. So we follow the path of the lion and we go back. We start at the tree. The tree is going to be a producer, and then the lion can either eat the giraffe or the rhino. Now, the giraffe is a primary consumer, the rhino is a primary consumer. There's no other path to get to the lion, meaning in both scenarios, the lion is a secondary consumer. So I just explained to you guys the highest trophic levels of all of these. The grass is a producer, the grasshopper is a primary consumer, the tree is a producer, the rhino is a primary consumer. The highest level for the deer is going to be primary consumer. The highest level for the snake is actually going to be tertiary consumer. The highest level for the cheetah is a fifth level consumer. Only it can, and it's only happening because of the fact that he's supplementing his diet with other food. The highest level for the blackbird is a secondary consumer, and the highest level for the lion is also a secondary consumer. Let's go to the next question now. So a scientist is studying a hill to see what kind of ecosystem exists there. He notices that the grass as, my bad. He notices that the grass is the foundation of the ecosystem. Grasshoppers and beetles eat the grass. The grasshopper is eaten by the wasp, while the beetle is eaten by the ants. The ants and the wasp are both eaten by a bluebird. So draw a food web for this ecosystem. You will compare your drawing to mine at the end. And I guess at this point is when you're comparing your drawing to mine. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. So we're going to be drawing a quick food web, and hopefully you guys should be able to see this. So I have a pen right here, and from what I can see right here, we are going to be creating this food web. So we have a couple different things. The grass is the foundation of the ecosystem, and it gets eaten by grasshopper and beetles. So if I was to do this, I'd put a G in the bottom for my grass, and then I'm just going to draw two lines pointing out. Two lines pointing out. And on the first one, I'm going to put my beetle right here on this side. I'm only writing the first letter of it to make it a little bit simpler, the beetle. That's a very bad B, but you guys get the idea. And for this one, it's going to be a grasshopper, GH. Now, it says that the grasshopper is eaten by the wasp, while the beetles are eaten by the ants. So I'm going to draw another line right here. I just chose to crisscross them because I like the way they look. So grasshopper is eaten by the wasp. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a big W right here. The wasp is eaten by the ants. My bad. The beetles are eaten by the ants. I'm going to put a big A here. All I'm doing is I'm creating a food web based off the writing that they gave us. And the ants and the wasp are both eaten by a blue bird. So then I'm just going to go ahead and draw another line right here, connecting them because they're eaten by the blue bird. Yeah, that B is a lot better than my first B. All right, so there we go. So I just created a quick food web. Now, by the way, you didn't have to do these lines like this. You could have done them in a different way. Like I'll do it in a blue color right now. I could have also just done a straight line going like this. I chose to crisscross them because I thought they'd look prettier, to be honest. Oop, my bad. Let me erase that. I'm sorry about that. Let me erase that. Let me erase this. So I didn't have to do them like that. I could have actually done them like this. If I wanted to, I could have just done a straight line for them. I only crisscrossed them because I thought it would look nice. But I could have just done this instead. And since the grasshopper is eaten by the wasp, I would have just put the W here. And since the beetle is eaten by the ants, I would have just put an A here instead. Nothing too crazy. I could have just done that instead. The only reason I took the other path is because personally, I thought it looked nicer. That's it. Now, let's go forward with this next part. So we're going to continue going down, and right here. If the grass has 5,000 units of energy, how much of that energy would make it to a vulture, the white bird at the top at the highest trophic level? So the grass has 5,000 units of energy, and we want to see how much is going to make it to the bird at the very top at the highest trophic level. So he has a couple different paths. We could have the 5,000 units here, and then he goes from the 5,000 units into the rhino and into the vulture. That would make him a secondary consumer. Secondary consumer. And so it'd go 5,000 divide by 10 to 500 divide by 10, he would get 50. But he has different paths to becoming his highest level. So secondary consumer is not his highest trophic level. Then we go right here. We can do the bush or the grass, either one, and it can go into the deer. So, my bad. We're going to do the grass. It goes into the deer. So it goes 5,000 to 500, and then the cheetah eats him. Cheetah gets 50, and then the vulture eats him. He gets 5. That would make the vulture a tertiary consumer. But that's still not his highest level. So let's find another way. We go grass to grasshopper to the blackbird to the skunk to the vulture. That would make the vulture a quaternary consumer. So we'd go 5,000 divided by 10 to 500, divide by 10 one more time to 50, divide by 10 to get 5, divide by 10 to get 0.5. Quaternary consumer. But that's still not even his highest level yet. It's still not his highest level yet. So let's find the longest path that we can find. So we got grass to rat, 5,000 divided by 10 to 500. We go to the bobcat, divide 500 by 10 to get 50. Bobcat to snake, divide 50 by 10 to get 5. Snake to the baboon, divide 5 by 10 to get 0.5. Wait, let me check my math real quick. 5,555. Yes, 0.5 for the baboon. Cheetah eats him, divide the 0.5 by 10 again to get 0.05. And then the vulture eats the cheetah. And so divide that by 10 one more time. And we get 0.005. 0.005. The lowest amount of energy possible in this scenario. And so we're going to go right here and we're going to go 5,000 at the producer. So producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer at the bobcat, tertiary consumer at the snake, quaternary consumer at the baboon, fifth level consumer at the cheetah, and sixth level consumer at the vulture. The vulture is a sixth level consumer. And because of that, it's only going to get 0.005 energy from eating the cheetah. It almost gets nothing from eating the cheetah. The only reason that the vulture is able to survive is because he also has different food sources. So he has the skunk, and that one ends up giving him a little bit more energy. And he also eats the rhino, and that's his best food source because he gets the most energy from eating the rhino. So he really depends on the rhino to supplement his diet. Now let's get to the last two real quick. So let's see, the grasshopper population over a year. We have this right here, and it says May, June, and July are the sunniest months of the year. Propose an explanation as to why the grasshopper population increases during the months of May, June, and July. So we can see that everything's kind of steady, and then boom, during May, June, and July, it jumps up pretty high. But it's also the sunniest times of the year. So when it's the sunniest time, there's going to be an organism that grows a lot. And remember, we see that right here on this right here that the grasshopper feeds on the grass. So if it's the sunniest time of the year and the grasshopper is feeding on the grass, that must mean that we have the most grass growing at that time. So my reasoning would be the grass grows the most during that time frame. Now, get into the next one. What evidence is shown in the graph to support your answer? Well, the evidence that I see right here is that in May, June, and July, our population basically doubled. So from the time of May to July, the population doubled in size. That's the evidence that I could draw from the graph. So whenever they ask you for evidence from the graph, look at specific date points. So a proper answer, or a correct answer that I would give for this would be, during May, the population jumped up to 20. During June, it jumped up to around 22. And during July, it was still at around 18. All these numbers are about twice of what the normal population size is for the grasshoppers. And I know that population size is dependent on food. The more food there is, the more population you'll have. There you go. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions about this section in particular, please feel free to reach out to me again. But if you don't, great. Review this a couple times if you need to, and I will see you guys in the next section. Bye, guys.